Southwest to wear their dark road uniforms. Illinois State to come out in the home whites. Again, we talked about the significance of this ball game. The Redbirds at 6-2 in the conference. Southwest Missouri at 4-3. Illinois State in first place right now, and Southwest in fourth at the start of the night. They'll also be keeping an eye on what's going on in Peoria at Carver Arena between Bradley and Wichita State tonight. The officials for tonight's ball game: Eric Harmon, Paul Jansen, Jerry Pollard, a veteran crew to work tonight's game here at Redbird Arena. Sit back, folks, stay warm in your house, and enjoy tonight's basketball game here on CBS 31. The crowd might be a bit sparse because of the weather tonight, but we're proud to bring you the basketball here on CBS 31. Illinois State controls the tap and again moves from your right to your left on the television wearing the home whites. That's Jamar Smiley, and here's Skip Schaepower. Southwest immediately in a man-to-man defense. Rico Hill left open, kicks it into Watkins. First shot of the game, turnaround jumper, missed it, ripped down that time by Southwest's Kaliko Bowie.
So he's really challenged that time on a shot by Danny Moore. He does a good job inside defensively, and Leroy's going to have to challenge him.
There's Ben Condobender. He loves to play around the basket. As we say, he's one of the more deceiving players in the league. Does not look very athletic. He just is so steady, he gets the job done.
That's right. At 9 in, 9 out, he'll score 15 points for you.
Rico Hill couldn't get the shooter's touch on that one. Illinois State is 0 for 2 in the first 45 seconds of the ball game. Here's William Fauntleroy.
Good freshman point guard running the show for Southwest Missouri State. And Ryan Bettenhausen, who ran the show for him last year, is sitting on the bench as a sophomore.
A lot of youth on this ball club. Here's Condobender again. He draws the foul. He's going to go to the free throw line. It's 4-0 in favor of the Bears.
Boy, Skip Schaefer that time, unfortunate, had his back to the referee, and the official saw him reach in, not necessarily draw any contact. Take a look on the replay. You see Condobender coming down the lane. Skip kind of swipes at the ball, and the official sees that from behind his back, isn't really able to get a view of the contact, but makes the call.
An 80% free thrower, outstanding touch. He's averaging 12.6 points a game and about 6 rebounds.
I'll tell you, in a game like this, too, Southwest coming off from a disappointing showing at Bradley, they gained a little confidence in the early going. They're going to be a tough team to beat.
5-0. The Bears so far pitching a shutout. Here's Rico Hill off the glass.
Great motion offense that time by the Redbirds. Rico Hill and Leroy Watkins work so well inside together. There you see Rico getting freed up in on the block, and he's tough to stop down there.
So it took the Redbirds a minute 15 to get on the board. Here's Condobender again. Missed his first shot, though. So he's 2 out of 3 from the floor. Now Illinois State with a chance to either tie it with a 3 or get to within 1, but Jamar turned the ball over. Smiley's first turnover of the game.
Well, the carrying violation that time called by Paul Jansen, but it looked more like a traveling violation by Jamar. He got a little out of control that time, moving the ball up the floor, and the ball kind of got away from him.
5-2, the Bears with the advantage. Southwest with just 1 senior on this team, Kaliko Bowie, and just 1 junior in Condobender. Missed shot that time corralled by Dan Muller, and ISU again trying to carve into that lead, but Smiley turned the ball over once more.
Boy, uncharacteristic of Jamar Smiley, 2 early turnovers.
Here's Fauntleroy, had the ball slapped out of his hands, but a foul on Smiley that time.
Yeah, that time Jamar just compounded the mistake by fouling on the drive that time by Fauntleroy.
Second team foul on the Redbirds. Southwest Missouri State.
Good job by the Redbirds pushing the ball up the floor, and Jamar tries to get a little action going, just forgets the ball, and Southwest goes the other way, where Fauntleroy to take it on his own after the Bowie pass and get fouled.
I need to correct myself when I said that Kaliko Bowie was the only senior on the team. He's really the only starter who's a senior, and really the only significant senior. Tony Davis is hurt. He has a dislocated left shoulder. He might be done for the year. He is a senior. And then Monty Marsh is actually a graduate student. He's listed as a senior, but he's just a role player for the Bears. Fauntleroy makes 1 of 2, and it's a 6-2 Bears advantage. 2 minutes into this ballgame.
Jamar needs to settle down at the point now and get control of the ball and run the team like he's accustomed to.
On the baseline, Leroy Watkins. He walked. Illinois State has turned the ball over in its last 3 possessions.
Yeah, in the game the other night against Wichita State, they didn't have a turnover until there were under 4 minutes left in the first half. So not a very good start for the offense here for the Redbirds.
Yeah, Jamar Smiley played better than 30 minutes on Saturday night without turning the basketball over. Here's Kevin Alt. Scooped it up, missed the shot, knocked out of Danny Moore's hands, but it's Condobender who goes and gets. He drops it down to Moore now. Double team, half hook, hooked it in.
A lot of activity with his feet, but he kept his pivot foot, did a good job of keeping his composure inside against Leroy.
8-2 in favor of the Bears, but another traveling violation. Eric Harmon whistling Leroy Watkins That's 4 consecutive turnovers for the Redbird offense.
Yeah, a lot of people are in disagreement with the call, but what happened there was Leroy got the ball and had a little jump step, and he took a step after that, and every time the officials right on top of the play will make that call.
Southwest shooting 50% from the floor in the early going. Here's Kaliko Bowie for 3. It's an 11-2 ball game.
Redbird's really struggling from the beginning here. They need to get something going inside.
Here's Rico Hill trying to make something happen. Missed the shot, got his own rebound, knocked out of bounds, and ISU will regain possession.
Illinois State's been pounding the ball in as of late with Leroy and Rico doing the job inside, and they're trying to get that started here in the early going, but they're falling behind quickly against Southwest.
Yeah, no outside shots so far for the Redbirds, Matt. It's all been inside with Leroy Watkins and Rico Hill taking all the shots. And just as we say that, Skip Schaefbauer right from the 3.
I tell you, that'll get you in the game in a hurry, and it's good to see Skip coming out early and hitting that shot. He's been struggling as of late. Hit a big shot against Wichita the other night, but he's got a good start so far in this game.
Schaefbauer started out the first month of the season as kind of the go-to guy for the Redbirds, but you're right, he's been in a bit of a slump lately. Bowie with the snap pass to Condobender. Nicely done from Kaliko Bowie to Ben Condobender.
Long rebound off of the three-point shot by Bowie that time, and he did a good job. Dan Buller lost track of his man, and Condobender is a smart player. He just went straight to the basket.
Here's Smiley trying to draw the foul. Can't get it. Followed up. Tip no good by Rico Hill. Danny Moore trying to fight for the loose ball. Hill comes up with it and shoots it in.
Good job by Jamar Smiley to get in there and get after the ball. Danny Moore seemed to have control of the rebound, but Jamar didn't give up on the play and got the ball back.
Both teams have been very active around the basket in the early going. It's a 13-7 Southwest Missouri State advantage. Here's Bowie. Nice pass again inside to Danny Moore. 2 great assists from Bowie in the last 2 trips down the floor.
Say, Kaliko Bowie sees a mismatch opportunity against Rico Hill and is taking it right at him.
Smiley's pass intended for Schaefbauer was picked off by Kevin Alt, but he stepped out of bounds. Our first timeout on the floor. Southwest Missouri State with a 15-7 early advantage here at Redbird ball game. And Rob Gibbons, so ISU with 3 quick substitutions and try to jumpstart the offense, which has struggled a bit, turned the ball over 4 times during the first 4 minutes.
I tell you, Steve Hansen's been a welcome sight to this Redbird team since he's been back from his injury.
Had his pass blocked, knocked out of his hands. Fauntleroy's got Kaliko Bowie ahead of the pack. Bowie's all alone. He laid it in.
Another turnover by the Redbirds. Good defense by the Southwest. Fauntleroy came up with the steal.
17-7, a 10-point Bears lead. Slow start for the Redbirds. And Skip Schaefbauer had the ball knocked out of his hands by Kevin Alt. 2-on-1 if he hurries. He looks. He gives to Fauntleroy, and there's going to be a foul on the floor on ISU.
Well, that time it looked like Fauntleroy might have traveled as he went up with the ball. He had Kenneth Pearson looking right in the face and tried to do a little spin around. Kevin Alt's going to bring the ball up the floor. Looked like he may have traveled to start. Gets it over to Fauntleroy. He gives a little up fake to Kenneth Pearson, just does a spin around and draws the foul. He'll go line for 2.
William Fauntleroy, Fontleroy. 6'1", freshman guard, 175 pounds. He's from Gary, Indiana. And now Southwest makes its first substitution. Kaliko Bowie leaves the ball game in favor of John Paul Nelson, a 7-footer. So now the Bears have some height in the lineup. They've got a 7-footer and a 6'11" player on the front line.
The Redbirds really need to get going offensively, and they need a shot in the arm from the bench right now. They got a good effort out of them the other night.
Here's Kenny Pearson missing the floater. Kevin Alt the rebound. Redbird shooting 37% early in the ballgame.
That was a miss at the other end by Kenneth, but it's good to see him taking that shot. He hasn't had a lot of confidence since his injury, and he's somebody they need to rely on off the bench.
Here's Danny Moore, missed the shot. Hansel up high for the rebound.
Hansel off the career-high 8 rebounds against Wichita the other night.
Skip Schaefbauer, his second 3, missed. Gibbons back-tapped it out to Hansel. They'll reload the shot clock. Here's now Hansel in some trouble there. Again to Schaefbauer for 3. Missed in front of the iron. Kenny Pearson high for the rebound. And he's fouled.
Just as I said, it's good to see Kenny involved in the action. He's getting more aggressive now. He's starting to wear off that knee injury he had earlier in the year where he missed a few games, but he's got to be very active off the bench. Good job by Rob keeping the ball alive the first time. Steve Hansel comes in with it, is able to get it back out to Skip, who takes the 3. His shot's off a little bit. Kenneth Pearson goes up strong, gets the rebound, a little up fake, and up for the bucket.
Yeah, Matt, you mentioned the knee injury. Kenny Pearson had arthroscopic surgery back in December, and 3 hours after the surgery, he's out dunking a basketball. So his recuperative powers were really pumped that day. Rob Gibbons in the right place at the right time, and he traveled.
Another turnover for the Redbirds.
ISU had a great chance to cash in off the missed free throw, but it's turnover number 7 here in just the first 6 minutes.
You know, the thing is, probably 5 of those 7 turnovers are unforced.
Redbirds.
Southwest is known for their defense, but they really haven't forced the turnovers for Illinois State. It's just careless mistakes.
Here comes full court pressure now by ISU off the inbounds pass, trying to get Southwest a little bit out of its rhythm. The Bears have an 18-9 lead. They've doubled the score on Illinois State. Kevin Alt with Schaefbauer on him.
Good defensive pressure there by Skip, challenging Alt from the perimeter.
3 ball for Alt. In and out. Cancel another defensive board. Here's Leroy Watkins with the lefty hook. Couldn't get it. Big rebound that time by John Paul Nelson.
Good defense by Nelson, pushing Leroy off the block to get the ball. He's just short on the jump hook.
6.5 minutes into the ball game. It's 18-9 in favor of Southwest Missouri State, and a holding foul on Leroy Watkins.
Yeah, the official saw Leroy that time grabbing Moore coming down on the block from behind with the left arm. He was reaching with the right arm to try to get the steal. You see the pass come in from Fauntleroy. Leroy comes out after, but what you couldn't see there is his left arm was kind of wrapped around Moore from behind.
Rico Hill in, Rob Gibbons out. Kyle Cartmill to make his first appearance in the ball game. He replaces Skip Schaefbauer. Cartmill, the sophomore from Quincy.
And again, you'll see the Redbirds using a lot of players out there, and that's something they're known for. They usually play 10 guys before the 10-minute mark of the half.
Kevin Alt for 3 left open, missed the shot, long rebound out to Cartmill, but it went off his hands, and he goes into the first row over the ISU bench.
Yeah, again, that's a ball that Kyle needs to come up with off the boards. They can't afford to let Southwest get second attempts, and here's one by giving the ball out of bounds. Redbirds in their point zone defense here on the out of bounds play,
which is similar to a matchup. So Kevin Alt for 3. He missed on his first 2 attempts, but the third time was the charm. Largest lead of the ball game, 21-9. A 12-point Southwest Missouri State lead.
This is usually what Illinois State is accustomed to, is getting the other team down by a margin like this in the early going.
Forced up shot by Watkins that time. Loose ball on the floor. Leroy goes and gets it. He's fouled this time.
Good job again by the Redbirds. Rico Hill and Leroy Watkins being very active on the boards, and Leroy's having a tough time figuring out how to get a score against Danny Moore inside. He's big, he's 6'10", he doesn't go for any shot fakes, he keeps his feet on the ground, and Leroy's having a tough time getting around him, but he and Rico, as I said, did a good job just staying after the ball that time.
Both these teams doing a pretty good job on the glass, and both teams are plus averages as far as the rebounding is concerned. ISU usually has about a +5 average. They are getting 39 boards a game, giving up 34, and Southwest Missouri State is a +2. They're getting about 39, giving up 37.
Yeah, that's usually a good indicator, too, of a team's play, and as you can see with the records these two teams show, that's a big reason why is a rebounding advantage.
Leroy Watkins misses them both. Kyle Cartmill fouled on the rebound by Condobender.
Good job by Kyle, and I'll tell you, that's another thing that you see the Redbirds do a lot, is get offensive rebounds on missed free throws. A lot of times in this game, you're going to see them tip the ball back and come up with the ball, or just to stay after it aggressively. Other teams may tend to just slack off on the free throws, but Illinois State really goes after it.
And Jamar Smiley back in the game, triggers underneath the basket. Here's Rico Hill on Danny Moore. He missed a short shot off of Rico Hill's hands and out of bounds. That's a bit of a mismatch as far as the quickness is concerned. Moore has the height, but Hill has the quickness.
Yeah, that's usually a shot that Rico's going to hit. He's gotten some good looks at the basket so far in the early going, but with the size that Southwest has, it kind of presents a problem.
Cold shooting for the Redbirds, just 29% here in the first 7.5 minutes of the ball game. There's a lob down to Moore, who shoots over Watkins, missed the shot, Leroy the rebound.
Good job defensively by Leroy. Gathered himself and was able to go up and bother the shot that time by Moore.
Rico Hill from Smiley, and he draws the foul. Nice pass from Smiley.
Good recognition that time by Jamar. And Rico did a smart thing. As soon as he got down the floor off the missed opportunity by Moore at the other end, he went straight to the basket. And that's where Jamar hits him with the quick no-look pass. Rico goes up strong. He's got a big, wide body, and Nelson can't do anything but foul him from behind.
So Rico Hill goes to the free throw line, where he is 75% of the year, the sophomore forward from Calumet Park.
Rico, for a big man, has a really soft touch from the free throw line and out on the perimeter. You know, inside, you'll see that as well. He's got a great soft touch around the basket.
I see Steve Alford trying to tell his taller players to box out and not let these guys get inside on him. Here's some more pressure for Illinois State. Long pass ahead to Josh Coates, who just entered the ball game. He's got Kyle Cartwell. Kyle almost jumped right over him. He clipped his ankle on the back of Coates' neck.
I tell you, that's a good foul that time. Good job by Southwest breaking the press that time by Illinois State, but Kyle really hustled back. You see the Southwest Missouri State pressure, or actually attack against the zone pressure. Kyle goes up high over Coates, catches him on the back of the head on the way over the top of him.
Well, that's the best way to break a full court pressure. If you can send somebody streaking down floor and hit him with a long pass, you'll break a lot of those presses. Southwest at least getting some free throws out of it as Kevin Stallings watches. Josh Coates makes them both. And again, the score is doubled. Now it's 23-11. Pardon me, as Southwest has the lead. Ryan Bentonhausen, you see him check in the ball game for Southwest Missouri State.
Southwest doesn't go real deep on their bench, but Bettenhausen is definitely a good reserve to have in your program, because last year, as I said, he started just about every game for the Bears.
William Fauntleroy is the player that he replaces. Here's Rico Hill, had a shot blocked, that time by Nelson. But Watkins the rebound, he missed the shot. Tapped up, and again Watkins on the ball. Had the ball stripped, got it back. And Eric Harmon is going to call a foul here on Ben Condolbender, which will be foul number 2 on him.
Well, I tell you, they missed the first one on Condolbender. I can hear it from the table over here, even with my headsets on. You know, Leroy got the ball, and there's a lot of slapping going on. I tell you, Leroy's got some strong hands, and it's going to take a lot to get the ball away from him.
We have an official's timeout, 11:40 to play here in the first half. Inbounds pass from Smiley to Schaefbauer, knocked out of his hands. Smiley recovers and gets to Muller.
Good job by Skip to keep that ball alive. It looked like Southwest may come up with another turnover.
Inside, turnaround, Hill is fouled. That time by Bentonhausen on the reach-in.
Boy, the Redbirds really looking to pound it inside. They're shooting only 25% in the early going, but they keep pounding it into Leroy and Rico. Want to try to get Danny Moore and the bigger players for Southwest Missouri in foul trouble. They haven't come up, you know, on the benefit so far in the game, but they've been able to draw a few fouls.
In fact, it has seemed like even a couple of times, Leroy, Watkins, or Rico Hill were almost out of position. They were so far underneath that the baseline was being used as a defender against them, and they got the ball really too far down.
Yeah, they're really not letting them get the ball inside the lane where they're used to.
But a pair of free throws for Rico Hill. He's got 8 points out of the Redbird 13.
If the Redbirds can pick it up defensively here.
Bentonhausen. This is Kaliko Bowie backing in on Hill. 10 on the shot clock. Kaliko Bowie.
Rico's really got to play out on the perimeter more against Bowie, and that's kind of a mismatch for him. He's used to banging inside against some of the bigger players.
Southwest doing a nice job running its offense against the Redbird defense. Leroy Watkins' shot no good, but Hill is there. He's got 10 points. He's in double figures already.
I tell you, I hate to keep repeating myself, but Leroy's big and strong, but he's really getting pushed around by Nelson and Moore in there. He needs to get positioned closer to the basket to be more effective.
Here's Bowie now, double team. And Rico Hill took the ball right out of his hands. Redbird's in transition now. Schaefbauer thinks about the three, spins inside, and draws the foul.
Good job by the Redbirds. Try to get a little offense going out of transition. Skip knowing that the defense is going to be coming at him. You know, he's going to give him a fake on the three. Down at the other end, we just talked about the mismatch between Rico and Rico Bowie. That time he comes up with the steal on the deflected pass and goes the other way.
Steve Alford is furious at Kaliko Bowie. You can hear him screaming all the way down here, and now Bowie's to the bench, and he's being replaced by John Paul Nelson.
And I'm sure Alford in that situation wants Bowie to get rid of the ball quicker to avoid the trap down on the block.
Skip Schaefbauer is a 75% free thrower. He's the transfer from East Carolina from Elk River, Minnesota, so he must like this weather.
Yeah, this is like back home for him.
Beat him low. Redbirds within 8 now. It's the closest they've been for a couple of minutes. As we are halfway home in the first half, the 10-minute mark, it's 25-17 in favor of the Bears.
Definitely tell the Redbirds to pick it up a notch defensively.
Josh Coates missed the 3. Nelson kicked it into Danny Moore, had it stripped, and a foul. Reach in on Schaefbauer.
Again, second chance opportunities by Southwest Missouri State, and they're taking advantage of those. That time Gibbons doesn't do a good job blocking out Nelson on the shot by Hoax from the corner, and they come up with an easy shot inside by Moore, who goes to the line again.
Kevin Stallings was reminding Rob Gibbons of his defensive responsibilities there on that trip down. So here's Danny Moore to the free throw line.
I tell you, Moore's been a good-looking player for Southwest. You talked in the early part of the game about him possibly being the newcomer of the year in the Valley. He's also in contention for the player of the year in the Valley. He's been that much of a contributor to Southwest this year.
As you said, in his first 10 games, 6 of those 10, he scored 20 or more points. He's cooled off a bit. He's only had one of those 20-point outbursts in his last 8, but he makes both of those free throws. And it's back now to a 27-17, 10-point lead for the Bears. Steve Hanselin running the show now for Smiley. There's Rico Hill. Is it going to be an offensive foul or a defensive foul? A blocking foul and a couple of free throws on the way from Rico.
I'll tell you, it's a good job by the officials coming together and talking about the play before either one of them made a call. Muller does a good job driving and dishing off to Rico, but as you can see, Nelson comes over and slides in and gets the block on Rico Hill. And Rico's strong enough and has a good enough touch on the ball to get it in the basket. He'll go to the line to try to complete the three-point play.
And you bring up a good point, Matt. Eric Harmon and Paul Jansen looked at each other. They discussed the call before they made it. One didn't jump the gun and try to outdo the other.
Exactly. These are good quality officials that we have tonight, and that's important for a game of this magnitude in the Valley.
Rico Hill has 13 of Illinois State's 20 points, and it's back to a 7-point Bear lead, and the crowd is into it.
Flexibility you get of a Steve Hansel. He can go out on the floor and guard people.
And he just caused a Southwest Missouri State turnover.
I'll tell you, Dan Muller was a defensive player of the year in the Valley last year, but I'm not so sure that Dan's the defensive player of the Redbirds, because Steve Hansel can guard so many different people and really picks it up a notch defensively, and that's what they really need off the bench.
And now it's going to be an illegal screen on this end.
And that's another turnover for the Redbirds. Rob just moved a little bit on the screen, and the official's right on top of the play. He's going to make that call every time.
And Stallings obviously not happy. Rob Gibbons, ironically, a year ago, there was one stretch in the game here at Redbird Arena against Southwest Missouri State where he took the game over, had a couple of big defensive rebounds and offensive putbacks. But tonight so far against the Bears, he's had a very difficult time getting him to flow the ballgame.
Well, I'll tell you, the other night against Wichita State, he was the same way. Very effective both offensively and defensively against Wichita State.
Josh Oates missed the front end of a one-on-one. And the Redbirds with a chance to carve into that 7-point deficit now.
Boy, Javar just not as sure of himself with the ball tonight.
Steve Hansel left open.
There's Hansel's versatility again. The guy can do it all. He's good handling the ball, He's a good scorer from the perimeter. He can create a lot of opportunities for other players. Defensively, he's one of the better defenders for the Redbirds, and he grabs a lot of rebounds for them. So he really adds a lot to this team, and they're glad to have him back.
22nd timeout called here by Steve Alford, and you've hit the nail on the head, Matt. Steve Hansel is a very versatile and perhaps overlooked player. He can play the point, he can play the 2, he can play the 3, he distributes the ball, he can run the offense. We've already seen him get a couple of defensive rebounds. He just does a little bit of everything and does it all very well.
Yeah, and as some people might remember, and I'm sure Southwest remembers, last year down in Springfield, Missouri, in a big win for the Redbirds, he lit Southwest up for 20 points, a career high for Steve. So he's a very versatile player, and I tell you, I can't say anything but good things about him because he's really a big shot in the arm for the Redbirds since his return.
Back-to-back years, he's had to come back from foot injuries. Left foot last year, right foot this year. 27-22, 5-point lead for the Bears. We have the basketball. Kevin All drew a foul on Kenny Pearson.
That's a good play by the freshman, Kevin All. Kevin Alt's Mr. Basketball coming out of Indiana. And, Steve Alford plucked him right away from the state, right off from under his former coach's nose. But just a smart play by him, and really kind of a foolish foul that time by Kenneth. He could have stayed on his feet the whole time and still would have been able to block the shot.
Yeah, Steve Alford went back to Warsaw, Indiana, where Alt is from, and took him away from the Indianas and the Purdues and the Notre Dames and everybody else in the state of Indiana.
And he's going right in his own backyard. He took Fauntleroy away from Indiana, and he's gone and got Danny Moore, who came out of Shelbyville, Indiana, and by way of Miami of Ohio. But Steve's done a good job of recruiting in that area, and a lot of people remember his days in Indiana.
1 out of 2 from the free throw line for all. 6-point Bear lead. Here's Skip Schaefer, wants to cut the lead in half. He missed the 3. Rico Hill offensive rebound and fade away.
I tell you, Rico is fired up. He wants to put this team on his shoulders and carry him.
Benthausen in all kinds of trouble. Had the ball knocked off his hands and out of bounds.
He and Jamar are getting into it on the baseline now. Jamar's starting to pick his game up, and Benthausen might want to be careful a little bit because you get Jamar going into a talking match, and he's going to outplay you.
Schaefer for 3, missed it. Dan Muller had a tip, Hansel the rebound, and the basket.
I'll tell you, Dan Muller did a good job of keeping that ball alive. He got his hand on it, was able to keep it going, so Steve Hansel come up with the ball, and there he is, Johnny on the spot again.
Danny Moore had it stolen away.
Oh!
Looked
as if Felico Bowie might have gotten a hand on that play, but the official saw Dan Muller's momentum knock it out.
ISU has clawed all the way back to within 2. 7:22 to play before that. ISU has outscored Southwest Missouri State 9-1 in the last 3 minutes, and it's now 28-26, and Rico Hill doing it on both ends, man.
Yeah, I tell you, he's been the force inside for the Redbirds. Skip Schaefer a little flat on his three-point shot. Rico doing a good job of hustling after the ball. Nice soft touch inside going up against the taller Danny Moore, but just sticks it right in his face. He's been huge for the Redbirds here in the first half.
15 of Illinois State's 26 points have come off the fingertips of Rico Hill.
Illinois State on a 9-1 run here against Southwest, and they've really picked it up defensively, and that's generated some of their offense.
Condalbender's been quiet since the first couple of baskets of the game.
Now you got Muller against Felico Bowie, which is a much better matchup for the Redbirds.
10 on the shot clock.
Another steal by Hansel.
Yep. Redbirds with a chance to shoot for the tie. Smiley to Muller. They're going to go for the lead here.
Oh. I tell you, from half court on, Jamar Smiley knew exactly what he wanted to do. He knew Dan Muller was going to set up in three-point range, and he hit him exactly at the perfect time, and Dan just drained it.
ISU's first lead of the ball game, 29-28. Another steal. Muller this time comes up with it. The Redbirds have turned up the intensity on the defensive end. Here's Smiley now.
Good hands by Hansel to save that one from going out of bounds.
Muller, a 3 from the other side of the floor.
Boom! He got fouled too that time. Dan's feeling it now. It's good to see him hitting that three-point shot. It's got a good release and a nice high arch that time by Dan Muller.
Dan Muller has all of his 6 points here in the last 40 seconds. The Redbirds now have a 4-point lead, and that time Muller too aggressive, and he gets whistled for the foul.
Good defensive effort that time by Dan, moving his feet to cut Kaliko Bowie off on the baseline, but reached both hands in there at the last minute, picked up the foul. And Bowie's got lightning quickness for Southwest, and Dan's probably the best player to keep up with him. Again, Jamar doing a good job feeding Dan at the right moment. Dan gets a good release, good arch on the shot, hits nothing but net. He's really on a roll, his three-point shooting over the last 5 games.
And he goes to the bench to get a quick breather. Skip Schaefauer in to replace him.
Yeah, Muller goes to the bench, and they bring in Rico Hill. That really doesn't do much for Southwest.
So you've got Rico Hill, Leroy Watkins, Kenny Pearson, Steve Hansel, and Skip Schaefauer on the floor for ISU. Kaliko Bowie, who's at the free throw line. Makes them both. It's Bowie, Danny Moore, Ben Condobender, Kevin Alt, and William Fauntleroy for the Bears.
And those 2 free throws stopped a 15-1 run by the Redbirds.
Here's Leroy Watkins with a missed shot, and it's going to be an over the back this time on Rico Hill. Very aggressive, but position that time for Kaliko Bowie.
Yeah, again, Leroy getting the ball outside the block, and he's got a nice soft touch on the ball as well, but Moores keep pushing him off the block, and he's really trying to launch the ball up over him. But you see a good job that time by Kaliko Bowie keeping Rico Hill off the boards and being able to draw the foul and go to the line again for 2.
As we said off the top of the broadcast, both of these teams are among the best in the league as far as rebounding is concerned, and we're seeing that tonight. They're kind of holding their end on the defensive end. Certainly, ISU doing a better job on the offensive end as far as getting some offensive rebounds.
Yeah, Southwest always plays hard. And Steve Alford coach team, you're going to expect that from them, and they've got some good athletes and can go get the ball, and with their size, with Danny Moore and Nelson on the bench, they can really create a lot of problems for you on the boards.
Kaliko Bowie now has been to the free throw line there the last 4 trips and made them, and we're back to an even game at 32-32. Get Jamar Smiley out of the game, and Steve Hansel's turn to run the offense.
Redbirds in their motion offense always get a lot of good screening, good motion, and usually ends up with somebody getting a good look at the basket.
10 seconds on the clock. Skip Schaefauer had his shot rejected by Danny Moore. And who's going to get it? It's going to go to Southwest Missouri State. It looked initially like Paul Jansen whistled that it was going to be Illinois State's ball, but he changed his mind.
Yeah, Kenneth Pearson came in and trying to trying to intercept the out-of-bounds save opportunity.
They quickly down the floor. The Bears catch the Redbirds napping that time, and Danny Moore's going to get a couple of free throws out of it.
Yeah, I tell you, ISU wasn't ready. The ball was taken out of bounds. And Southwest doing a good job of recognizing that, getting the ball down the floor to Danny Moore quickly, and he was able to draw the foul against Leroy Watkins. It's 2 fouls on Leroy, so he and Kenneth Pearson both with 2 for the Redbirds.
Yeah, while ISU was sitting around scratching its head in regards to that out-of-bounds play, the Bears came down, and now Danny Moore, who's got 6 points tonight, has a chance to increase his total.
Southwest is a good team, and they responded to this surge by the Redbirds to even up this ball game. And they're not going to go away quietly. The Redbird fans can cheer as loud as they want, but this Southwest team's going to stick around to the end.
What an addition Danny Moore has been to Steve Alford's lineup. He's averaging 19 points and almost 8 rebounds a game. The big fellow from Shelbyville, Indiana. And Rico Hill has just whistled for another offensive foul that time on trying to get himself free.
I'll tell you, Kevin Alt's offensive player that he was guarding ran away from the ball. He did a good job of staying put, and as Rico came to the ball, he just stood right there, and Rico had no choice but to run him over.
That's Rico Hill's second foul, as we are under 5 minutes here to play in the first half now at 4:59 on the clock.
Yeah, with 5 minutes to go, Coach Kevin Stallings needs to utilize Rico Hill and Leroy Watkins very well in this last part of the half so they don't pick up a third foul.
Kevin Alt, 90% free thrower. Made one, missed one, and Rob Gibbons the rebound.
No field goals for Southwest in about the last 4 minutes of this ball game, but they've been able to sink some free throws to take the lead.
A lot of free throws so far in the first half. Here's Rico Hill.
I tell you, he's quick inside. Once he gets the ball, he knows exactly where he's going. He gets there in a hurry.
And give credit to Dan Muller for the nice entry pass. We're back even at 34. Fauntleroy now. Redbirds do a nice job of recovering on defense. from the corner. A long three by Fauntleroy is ripped down by Dan Muller. ISU again shoots for the lead. It's Smiley. Hansel the fake. And the drive.
And the charge. Basket's good, but it was a foul on Steve Hansel. He had already released the ball. Kaliko Bowie did a good job establishing position. That's the call that the official made. Steve does a good job of giving a little shot fake, goes the other way. Bowie slides in, gets position before Steve leaves his feet, and that's the rule. If the player leaves his feet before you've got position, then it's usually a blocking foul. But that time, Bowie had maintained his position before Steve Hansel had left his feet, was able to draw the charge. But although Steve had released the ball first, the basket counts.
We're going to give you a whistle, Matt. You called that one from way over here, and you nailed it.
I'll tell you, it's happened to me enough times. I know exactly what it is.
Boy, Kaliko Bowie has spent the whole first half here at the free throw line. He missed both those, though. And Rico Hill had the ball knocked out of his hand. And Bowie reached in. That's a frustration foul. He missed both free throws and went and fouled him.
You're exactly right, Kurt. And that's one of those double negatives. You know, you create something negatively, either offensively or defensively, and you compound that by another negative. That time, Kaliko Bowie compounded the problem by fouling Rico on the rebound.
Southwest Missouri State has already been to the free throw line 22 times. Some teams don't get there for the whole game. We've got 4 minutes to play in the first half, and they've been to the foul line 22 times.
Yeah, they haven't scored a lot of field goals, but they're going to keep in the game by going to the line that many times.
Rico Hill is having a monstrous first half. He's got
really
18 with one more free throw coming. Missed it. Rob Gibbons tapped the ball. It's going to go out of bounds, and Southwest gets it.
Yeah, that's a situation I talked about earlier where the Redbirds go after the ball on the offensive rebound on the free throw. That time Rob was able to get a hand on the ball but swiped it out of bounds to the sideline instead of tipping it back as you'll normally see out of the Redbirds.
And there goes Rico Hill to the bench for a much-deserved rest. 18 points out of Illinois State's 37.
Yeah, so far Southwest doesn't have an answer for him, although they've been able to hold Leroy Watkins in check as he scored 0 points so far.
Monty Marsh in the ballgame. That's him, 44 with the ball. He almost dragged his pivot foot.
Good job by Rob Gibbons against Danny Moore in on the block.
Alt with the feed to Danny Moore. He missed it, and Muller the rebound.
Good effort that time by Rob.
Smiley the crossover dribble, and he drew the foul.
Jamar is very quick. He's got a good crossover move on the dribble. And that time, again, he knew where Steve Hansel was, wanted to hit him with the shot for the three-point opportunity, and was able to draw the foul on the drive.
Certainly, as the game has progressed, Jamar Smiley has regained his confidence. You made a point of it, Matt. In the early stages of the game, he appeared unsure. He turned the ball over a couple times. A couple of his passes weren't sharp, but really in the last 6, 7, 8 minutes, he looks like the Jamar Smiley of old.
Yeah, and as you can see, Jamar's right wrist is heavily taped. He's had a problem with that all year. But as the games wore on, that's become a little more loose for him. He's able to handle the ball a little bit better. And I'll tell you the other thing, go back to Steve Hansel. He really creates a lot of opportunities for Jamar, being able to substitute for him. There's the offensive rebound.
Yep, your back tap by Kenny Pearson. And it's like another possession for ISU. Long three, Schaefbauer, short. He gets his own rebound, trying to tap the pass into Kenny Pearson, knocked out of bounds.
Boy, Skip's really been short on all of his shots. He's really getting his legs into his shot.
Redbirds with a 4-point lead, 38-34, with 3.5 to play here in the first half. Redbirds on a 3-game homestand. They already beat Wichita State. They've got Southwest tonight and Bradley on Saturday. That was a failed attempt at a lob pass into Kenny Pearson, and now Southwest has a chance to, well, they had a chance to cut it to 2, but Ryan Bettenhausen turned the ball over.
Yeah, I got one better than that. It's what Ryan Bettenhausen and Jamar Smiley are playing right now. 2 unforced turnovers by each team that time, and Illinois State really needs to get composure offensively here and try to get a little more lead going into halftime.
Schaefbauer faked the 3. I think it dribbled that ball off of Kevin Alt and out of bounds.
I'm not so sure that ball went off of Alt, but I think the officials trying to make up for that by not calling the foul. You got to call something on that play, it would seem, as 2 players go down.
That's what Steve Alford's saying, is how in the world could you not say that was either his team's ball or a foul on Skip Schaefbauer?
Yeah.
But the officiating crew is not agreeing with that assessment. Here's Kenny Pearson.
Oh. I say it. Jamar didn't look at the basket that whole way. He was looking for Kenneth the whole time. It was almost like he was saying with his eyes, come to the basket, come to the basket. Once Kenneth got the ball, he went to another level against Danny Moore.
Danny Moore that time on the offensive end draws the foul. When Moore, he gets the ball in the right places, he makes things happen. Now, he hasn't made a lot of baskets from the floor, but boy, he sure has drawn an awful lot of attention and some fouls.
Yeah, Danny Moore doesn't really get off the ground that much either, but he's just a smart player with the ball inside, uses his body well, and that time sensed that he had Rob Gibbons on his hip, and Kenneth Pearson in the air was able to draw the foul and go to the line, and in a sense, draw Kenneth Pearson's third foul and send him to the bench.
And that's where Pearson is headed. He's one of the more exciting players on this Redbird team. Boy, in the open floor, he can just jump through the ceiling, so when he gets the ball around the basket, you know it's going to be Jam City.
I tell you, it's amazing to watch Kenneth. And we talked about him being able to dunk after surgery, but he doesn't have to get up too high to do that. But you know, he definitely plays at another level above the rim that you don't see too many players play at.
1 out of 2 free throws for Danny Moore. And Monty Marsh is leaving the game in favor of John Paul Nelson again. So SMS going with their Twin Towers lineup of a 7-footer in John Paul Nelson and 6'11" Danny Moore, both on the front line. Two and a half to play here. It's a 5-point Redbird lead. Rico Hill again.
Boy, he's not even hesitating. He gets a 6'10" Danny Moore. He's got him by about 4 inches, and he's got a big wingspan, but Rico's just going right at him.
He's feeling it. 20 points in the first half here for Hill. Bentonhausen. Nice drop-down pass from Nelson to Moore, but knocked out of his hands, and here come the Redbirds back with a 7-point lead. And
Dan Muller got his hands on that ball.
Rico Hill, 22 points.
Count them all.
He's 8 of 12 from the floor, and he has 1/2 of Illinois State's offensive output. 22 of the Birds' 44.
I tell you, it's been almost 4 years since the Redbirds scored 30 points here in the arena, and he's well on his way here tonight.
It's going to be a tie-up here. Dan Muller and Danny Moore. Southwest Missouri State regains possession. Been almost 4 years since there's been a 30-point performer. Is that right?
Yeah, Mike Vandegarp was the last player in 1993 to score 30 points. And I'll tell you, with Rico's got 22 here in the early going, and he's not letting up at all. He feels it. He wants the ball, and he's taking it right to him.
Huge ovation here in the first half for Hill, who goes to the bench and gets a little rest with 1.5 minutes to play in the half. He's got 22 points.
Good move by Kevin Stallings to get him out with 2 fouls on defense here, not to pick up that third one.
Little zone action now for the Redbird defense. Here's Condolbender off the front of the iron, and Dan Muller comes down with it, and the Redbirds are now getting their tempo of the game established. Smiling. Hansel now from the right corner.
I tell you, Jamar is fired up. You know, he sees exactly where the players are, and he's got 6 assists now after a couple turnovers in the early going. He's really picked his game up as well.
Lightning has hit Redbird Arena. All of a sudden, the Redbirds have a 12-point lead. Danny Moore with 3 Redbirds on him, and it was Gibbons who got him on the arm.
Again, just a great awareness that time by Danny Moore. Hansel first pick, got a hand on the ball, tried to deflect it, pick up the steal, and you know, Moore just stayed with the play and had Leroy Watkins and Rob Gibbons both on him that time, was able to draw the foul. Just, you know, great awareness of where he's at on the floor.
Ronald Van Velzen is going to get an early appearance here in the first half as he comes into the ballgame. He's wearing number 33. He's a 6'10 sophomore from the Netherlands for Illinois State, trying to offset some of that height by the Bears.
I'll tell you, Southwest seemed to wake a sleeping giant early going. It was 23-11 with about 14 minutes to go in the half. And since then, Illinois State has outscored them 36-12. They've really turned it up a notch here in the first half.
One out of 2 for Danny Moore. 47-36 now, an 11-point game. 16 of 26 from the free throw line so far in the first half. Southwest Missouri State, 26 first half free throws. Man, you don't get that on the road.
Yeah, the Birds with 15 fouls here in the first half, so they need to keep their hands off them a little bit, quit sending them to the line.
Yeah, it seems like it's been forever since the Bears made a field goal. Here's Rico Hill. He got himself into trouble, into a double team, and had an impossible angle at which to try to make that shot.
Yeah, that time Southwest did a better job of pushing him off the block, and forcing him to the baseline where he had to try to attempt a shot from behind the backboard.
The shot clock is off. You see the game clock in the corner. That's how much time is left in the first half. Southwest Missouri State with the basketball. ISU with a 47-36 lead. Bentonhausen with Smiley, one-on-one. He snapped it over to John Paul Nelson. Nicely done by Ryan Bentonhausen, and that's going to be the final point of the first half. So Ryan Bentonhausen let the clock run down, and when he threw the double team, he found the open Nelson and laid it in. Halftime, 47-38, the Redbirds. Here at Redbird Arena, Illinois State has come back to take a 47-38 halftime lead over the Southwest Missouri State Bears. Kurt Pegler along with Matt Taphorn. Early on, Matt, certainly the Redbirds were struggling, as you made reference to. It was 23-11 Southwest. Everything was going in. The Bears were certainly in their flow. And then lightning strikes. A little intensity on the defensive end, and Rico Hill takes over the first half.
Yeah, I tell you that the lead that Southwest had is usually the lead that the Birds are accustomed to here at home, but Rico just took it upon himself to put the team on his back, as I had indicated before, and really carried it through the first half. And Jamar picked his game up after a couple of early turnovers, was able to feed the ball to the players at the right moment. And this is a very unselfish team. That's what you're going to see out of them the whole year.
Yeah, it looked as if Southwest was the home team. It came out with enough fire. It was setting the tempo. The Bears were doing everything right. But then all of a sudden, ISU said, this is our place. We're going to step it up defensively. Came up with some big steals. And then the Redbirds took the tempo of the game. And that's the reason why the 22 points by Rico Hill are pacing the Redbirds in this 47-38 halftime lead.
Yeah, I tell you, Southwest really came into this game almost like a cornered bear.
Yeah.
Because after a 22-point loss to Bradley and Peoria, you know, they want to get back in this race, and this is a key game for them. You know, they've got a lot riding on this game that they need to pick it up, and you know, they've got a few more road games coming up, but they've had a lot of home games early on. This is a game that they need to play better in.
Here we've got a replay of a pivotal basket for ISU.
Yeah, Skip Schaefbauer in the early going of the game was able to get open, and you know, Southwest is really going to concentrate on him, and you know, he's been a three-point threat for Illinois State all year. And he was able to get open early from the baseline and knock this one down, but since then he hasn't been able to hit one on 5 other attempts. So they need to get him going as well in the second half. But you know, with him outside and Rico inside, that's quite a tandem for the Redbirds.
That's the way it's been. It's 47-38 in favor of ISU here at halftime. In a few minutes, we're going to hear from Todd Berry, the ISU head football coach, and come back with their halftime statistics. But now let's go back to the CBS 31 newsroom. Illinois State has a 47-38 advantage over Southwest Missouri State. And at halftime, we're joined by Todd Berry, who's the head football coach here at Illinois State. And most people, Todd, are saying, it's the off season. You're probably sitting back, you know, having a pina colada. So this is a very important time for you. You've got a national letter of intent signing day next week. So I know you and your staff have been out recruiting like crazy.
Ever since we left the field on our last ball game, we've been recruiting. It's an ongoing process. It never stops. Obviously, this is a very hotly contested time period because the signing date's coming up. But we're really excited about it. We've got a great response from young people here in Illinois and really around the country.
February the 5th is that signing date. You're going to receive several letters, including one from an all-state quarterback from Detroit, right? His team won a national state championship, and he's going to be coming to ISU. Tell us about this guy.
Well, I really can't.
I guess you can't until
not until I get that official letter in. So I really can't talk about any recruits right now. But we are excited about the group of young men that have committed already to us. And I think that it's a very athletic group. We've got size, we've got speed, I think. And there's, like I said, we've been really very well received around the state of Illinois, which we appreciate that, and especially this first real full year of recruiting.
Good. Yeah, I apologize for that. I don't want to get you in trouble with the NCAA. 3-8 this past year. I know it's obviously not what you would want it to come off of, but it's no question it's going to take you a while to get your system and your players in at Illinois State.
Well, I think anytime that you have a transition year, it's going to be difficult. I was pleased with the attempt that we made in each ball game. I thought that we played hard in each game, and more than anything else, that's what you've got to initially start out, is how you're going to play the game. And I was proud of our young men along those lines. We lost some really tough games. We had some youth that had some young mistakes. We didn't have our numbers up like we will this next year as far as the number of athletes in the program. And I think our players right now have got a tremendously positive attitude. We're a year older. We're still going to be young this next year because we've got 32 scholarships to give this year, which is a huge amount out of the total of 63. they're working hard right now, and we're anxious to get back out there with them in spring practice here coming up in April.
And I know that you are proud to be a part of the ISU football family today, because there's a Super Bowl ring now in the ISU football family with Mike Pryor, a former All-American here in the early 80s, winning one with the Packers. Over Southwest Missouri State, and again, as we said, Rico Hill, 22 of ISU's 47 first half points, and if you're thinking about a career high, Rico's career high is 26, which he scored last year at Redbird Arena against Northern Iowa, so he's well on his way, perhaps to a record-setting night for his own personal resume, and he certainly would be more pleased with getting an ISU victory. And the Redbirds, man, dug themselves a hole, but dug themselves out in that first half.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the reason they did that, too, is from the defensive end. You know, Southwest Missouri State scores 23 points in the first 6 minutes of the half, and then goes the last 11 minutes without a field goal until that basket right at the end. You see Southwest Missouri State scoring leaders Kaliko Bowie getting 11 early points, Danny Moore with 9, very strong inside. And as we talked about, Rico Hill with 22, and Steve Hansel, we've had a lot of good things to say about him, 9 points off the bench. Strong performance for the Redbirds.
Yeah, Hansel has done it all for ISU tonight. He's had some nice passes. He's been busy and active on the defensive end, and he's also chipped in 9 points for Illinois State. Again, a 47-38 advantage as we get ready to start the second half here. Skip Schaefauer, Leroy Watkins, Rico Hill, Jamar Smiley, and Dan Muller, the same starting 5 which began the game, will go for Illinois State, and the same 5 which has started the game for Southwest will be out here for the second half. We're talking about William Fauntleroy, Kevin Alt. I guess we got John Paul Nelson for Danny Moore, I guess. I correct myself there. Kaliko Bowie and Ben Condolbender. So we've got John Paul Nelson in for Danny Moore. We've just been alerted to the fact that Kyle Cartmill has a hip pointer, and he probably will not return to the basketball game.
He came out of the second half on crutches.
So the freshman or the sophomore, I should say, from Quincy, is likely not to return. Rico Hill had the hot hand in the first half, but he missed his first shot here in the second half.
Yeah, that one was a little further out of the range that he's been accustomed to in the first half.
Southwest trying to carve into a 9-point ISU advantage. Here's Condolbender spinning, hitting Kaliko Bowie now from the corner. He'll push up the shot off the back of the iron. Leroy Watkins, active on the defensive end, comes up with the board. Here comes Jamar Smiley now. He's pushing the ball up the floor. He's got Dan Muller on the one. Steps inside, back out to Smiley. Left open for 3, and hits the 3.
Yeah, that time Dan Muller returned to favor. He smiles at Jamar going down the floor. He knew Jamar wanted the assist, but he'll take the 3-point shot after all.
He passed up the wing shot to hit Smiley, who knocked down the open jumper. It's a 12-point ISU lead, the Redbirds' biggest of the night at 50-38.
Yeah, and Southwest has the matchup that they took advantage of in the first half with Kaliko Bowie against Rico Hill.
John Paul Nelson missed it. Redbirds like this tempo, up and down the floor.
Really looking to hit Leroy Watkins inside to get him going here in the second half. Didn't score any points in the first.
There's Rico Hill spinning.
I tell you, it's fun to watch Rico play. He's got such a knack of knowing where the defensive player is and just spinning off of him and scoring on an easy shot at the basket.
You're seeing one of the better players in the Missouri Valley Conference tonight have one of his better nights of his career. Fauntleroy misses the shot. Danny Moore, or I should say John Paul Nelson, tipped the ball to keep it alive, and Condolbender goes. Here's Kevin Alt for 3. That's the first field goal for the Bears in about 6 or 7 minutes of game time.
Right.
I'd say the last 4.5 minutes of the first half and the first 2 here, they went without scoring a basket. Here's Leroy Watkins.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that time Leroy got the ball inside the block instead of being pushed off the lane. And, you know, John Paul Nelson is a big guy at 7 foot and 270, but that time Leroy was able to get the better of him inside.
Here's a whistle away from the foul, and it's going to be on Leroy Watkins.
Yeah, that time Leroy was trying to guard Nelson, but Condolbender seemed to get in the way, so he just kind of pushed him aside, knocked him over, and was called for the foul.
So Leroy Watkins, leads the ball game. Rob Gibbons enters.
You see Danny Moore back in the game.
Curious as to why he didn't start the second half here. Condolbender to trigger now. And here's Moore way out away from the basket. His pass to Kaliko Bowie goes right through Bowie's hands, and a turnover, and ISU tries to take advantage now. Up 13 with the basketball.
Yeah, that time you had Dan Muller guarding Bowie.
There's Smiley, got a great pick from Rob Gibbons.
Yeah, that time down the floor, Southwest Missouri State was anticipating Jamar Smiley to dish it off to somebody, and nobody stopped him, so he just took the ball right to the basket.
Give Gibbons the credit for a nice pick that paved the way for Smiley to get to the basket.
Good defense again by Dan Miller to shut off Condolbender on the baseline.
Alt looking for some room, and he somehow knifed his way through and shot it in. And a steal by Fauntleroy and lay in. Those were 4 quick points.
Yeah, good job that time by Fauntleroy to pick off the pass by Rico as he turned around just to pass it in to Jamar as he normally does. Just wasn't aware that Fauntleroy was standing right there for the interception.
Smiley's pass picked off again by Alt. Boy, he's a good player for a freshman. Fauntleroy, long lead ahead to Condolbender, who lays it in. They rattle off 6 straight points, and suddenly it's 56-47, down to a 9-point game.
And I'll tell you, this is where Illinois State got back in the game defensively, and that's where Southwest is turning it up now, is defensively as well.
Here's Schaefbauer drawing the foul.
Good job by Skip, just catch the ball and turn it in one motion. And then once he sees Danny Moore there, he just able to draw the foul and go to the free throw line. He's been very effective this year for the Redbirds.
I tell you, basketball is a fickle game. Just when it looked like, that after that layup by Jamar Smiley that the Redbirds were in control, they have Kevin Alt pinned in the corner. Somehow he slips through, he makes a basket. They steal the inbounds pass. Fauntleroy lays it in, and then stop the ISU attack on one end and comes down with another basket on the other end. Instead of being the knockout punch, it's back to a ball game.
Yeah, I tell you, you're going to see it game in and game out in Missouri Valley, too. It's such a competitive conference. And, as you've seen already this year, Northern Iowa has defeated the favored Illinois State Redbirds for the conference title this year twice already. So any night out, any team can beat any other team.
Schaefbauer knocks down both free throws. Steve Hansel in the game. He replaces Jamar Smiley. And again, we talked at halftime what a big offensive input he has given to the Redbirds, and really he's a fine defender too. He just comes off the bench and does everything right. Here's Fauntleroy now, and he hits the floater.
Boy, nice looking move by the freshman. Played around with the screen for a moment and was able to take it right to the basket, and he's got good jumping ability, so he goes up high for the shot.
Leroy Watkins had the shot snapped out of there by Danny Moore. Here's Fauntleroy now, a little out of control, but he regains control. Hanks fires, book it.
I'll tell you, Fauntleroy is a good-looking player. It's not surprising to see why he was able to take the job away from Ryan Bettenhausen, who had it last year, because he's an excellent player offensively.
Hansel for 3, missed the shot. More the rebound. Southwest trying to get under double digits now as far as their deficit is concerned. 2 freshmen in the backcourt for the Bears, so Steve Alford has quite a future as far as his backcourt is concerned. They're changing the scoreboard on us now. It's 58-51 in favor of Southwest. I thought that lead was a little deceptive.
Yeah, it didn't seem like as big as what it was.
Right. They had it down as an 11-point lead, but it's actually just 7 at 58-51.
On this last play, looked like Danny Jones may have moved out to try to pick off Skip Schaefbauer, but Skip just whistled for the foul.
And they've called timeout. They're going to straighten out the scoreboard thing. The Redbirds, 7-point lead, 15-4 back into this game, Matt, because it looked like for a while there ISU was ready to come out and deliver the knockout punch. That hasn't been the case.
Yeah, I tell you, as we said earlier, Southwest isn't the type of team that's just going to lay down, and they're going to fight after this the whole way.
William Fauntleroy in there with the trees, and he gets the lay-in off the tip ball off of Steve Hansel's hand.
I tell you, he's really given Southwest a little bit of rejuvenation here. They seem to be dead at one point, but now they're definitely alive in this game.
He's been terrific in the second half. 10 points on the game, 6.5. Leroy Watkins nicely done down low.
Nice dump pass that time by Skip Schaefbauer. Ran off the screen and roll that time by Leroy. And as he rolled right to the basket, gave him a nice little bounce pass where he could handle it and lay it in.
3-ball missed by Alt, tipped back off of Dan Muller. Is that right? No, I guess they're going to say off Danny Moore.
Looks like they both went after it that time, got a hand on it. The officials saw that Danny Moore hit it last, so the Redbirds get the ball out of bounds. Kevin Alt has got a little confidence here going. He's hit a couple shots, and he doesn't need a whole lot of room to be able to get that shot off. He's very quick in his release, and that time just fell a little short on the three-point attempt.
Steve Alford's team shooting an even 50% so far tonight after shooting just 31% on Saturday in their loss to Bradley and Peoria. Here's Rico Hill. He lost control of the ball. He tried to throw it off of Alt's foot, but it bounced right to Danny Moore. Here come the Bears in transition. Kindlebender down. Laid it in. Nicely done. I don't know how he got that shot off.
Well, that's what you see from Kindlebender, though. A lot of the shots he gets to the basket somehow are a little unorthodox, but he's used to doing that and scores very well in that capacity.
He's not spectacular. He's just steady. That's what we've been saying since the outset. Here's Hansel. Lost the ball out of bounds. Knocked off of somebody on Southwest. William Fauntleroy, it looks like.
And again, Kevin Stallings working the officials on the sideline. Thought he earned some skin that time as Steve Hansel tried to drive the basket, but Southwest being very active defensively and was able to get their hands on the ball.
It's just a 5-point game, folks. The Bears are hanging in there, and trying to lull ISU to sleep. 60-55 as we're under 14 minutes here to play in the second half. 7 on the shot clock. Kenny Pearson hangs off the back of the iron, and here's Kaliko Bowie with the rebound, and now Southwest has a chance to close it within 3.
One shot done there for the Redbirds.
And there's going to be a blocking foul on Pearson.
Well, that time really looked like Kaliko Bowie just got the ball and lowered his shoulder and went right through Pearson. But as you can see, he's moving over just a little bit. Feet aren't set, and the official's on top of the plate. He makes the call against the Redbirds. From another angle, you can see Kenneth kind of leaning in, not really having the position to draw the charge. Tough call for the Redbirds defensively.
And so Kenny Pearson leaves in favor of Skip Schaefbauer.
That's 4 fouls on Pearson,
yeah.
So he's a key reserve that Illinois State needs in this game to spell Leroy Enrico inside.
Kind of a small lineup in the game for Illinois State. Danny Moore misses, but Kindlebender there for the rebound. And he drew the foul on Rico Hill.
That's 3 on Rico now. And, Southwest really going after it on both ends of the floor. And you can sense that Steve Alford had a few things to say about them at halftime about picking up their effort as they kind of waned in the end of the first half. Moore goes up with a shot. You see Kindlebender going after it. With his size, doesn't jump real well, but he's always in the right place at the right time.
Ben Kindlebender is a terrific success story. At the age of 5, he was diagnosed as having a rare hip disease where he couldn't walk for a long time. He wore braces around his legs, and finally when he had a chance to play sports in Little League and little basketball, he had to wear these braces and played himself back into shape, and now he's playing Division I college basketball, and he's brought his team to within 3 points at 60-57.
I tell you, he's starting the second half just like he started the first.
Leroy Watkins missed with the left hand. Kaliko Bowie the rebound, and the Bears have a chance to close it within 1 or tie the game with a 3. Danny Moore. And a foul, but it's going to be an offensive foul.
Yeah, again, similar to the play you saw in the first half where Steve Hansel was able to hit the shot and was called for the foul. Danny Moore is trailing the play. Fauntleroy handles the ball, recognizes it, come down the lane, goes up with the shot. It almost looked like he had made contact that time before he released the ball. The official gave him the basket and the foul.
Suddenly, it's a 1-point basketball game at 60-59.
That was a big foul on Danny Moore. His third. You see Kevin Hall picking up the foul out on the perimeter against Jamar Smiley. Guarding him a little too close, but Moore gets the basket to draw them within 1 point, but he also picks up the 3rd foul, which is key for Southwest.
Southwest scored just 38 points in the first half, but have already rattled off 21 here in the second half. As they're up to 59 already. A quick hitting Bear attack. Watkins missed the double team, hit Smiley open for 3.
Boy, that time you had 3 guys down on Leroy, and he recognized that and hit Jamar.
Jamar Smiley is a 35% shooter from beyond the 3-point arc, but he's made both of his 2 attempts here in the second half. Big basket for the Redbirds. Kaliko Bowie threw it away.
Southwest looking to get Kaliko Bowie involved here in the second half and really going to him off that curl move. Skip did a good job of sticking right with him and forcing that turnover.
12 minutes to play in the second half. We're right at the 12-minute mark, 63-59, a 4-point ISU lead. The Redbirds with the basketball. Dan Muller from Schaefbauer. He caught himself into trouble, and he looked for some help, but threw it right to Kevin Alt.
When you leave your feet, you can ask for nothing but trouble if you don't really know where you're at on the floor, and that time Dan left his feet and caused a turnover.
Shot was blocked that time. Fauntleroy On the floor, another block that time. The Southwest bench is on its feet, screaming, looking for goaltending. No call. Here come the Redbirds back now.
Yeah, it looks as if that time down the floor, the ball had hit the backboard first, and then Leroy got a piece of it. So I think Steve Alford definitely has a complaint over there on the sideline. The officials didn't see it that way.
Ben Condelbender just picked up his third foul now on the reaching of Dan Muller. So ISU's best free throw shooter is going to go to the foul stripe.
Condelbender's played his case as well from the other end. Good action that time on the offensive boards by the Bears. And fell short as Leroy came up with a big block.
That was a crazy sequence down there. And the whole Southwest Missouri State bench was just screaming for either a foul or goaltending there. But it didn't happen, and the Redbirds take advantage with a couple of free throws off the assist of Dan Miller. The Redbirds lead at 60.
Get back at home and play, and Carverina's always been nice to them as far as a home crowd, and they'll come in here ready to play and fight just as Southwest is tonight.
Maliko Bowie thought about the three. Kevin Alt thought about the three, stepped inside. Now Bowie tries the three. Missed it. And Watkins had the ball knocked off his hands, and he tries to save it, but he throws it out of bounds right at Steve Alford.
A good hustle that time by the Redbirds. Had Leroy and Skip both going after the ball, and that's what you want to see. You'd rather see two guys going after it than nobody. And you know, Southwest still retains possession, but Illinois State doing a good job hustling after the ball.
Fresh 35 on the shot clock as we are under 11 minutes here to play in the second half. Fauntleroy goes right around Smiley, missed the shot, and up high to snare that rebounds Rico Hill. Fauntleroy is quick. He beats Smiley off the dribble drive but missed the shot.
Yeah, he's very quick. If he's going to beat Jamar, you know he's got to be quick.
Smiley again for three. Missed it that time. He's 2 out of 3 now here in the half.
Yeah, that time he almost seemed like he was too wide open. He's not used to being that wide open on a three-point attempt.
Condelbender blocked from behind by Hansel, but he goes and gets and lays it in.
He's just got a knack of knowing where the ball's at, getting into the basket. And even though Steve blocked him from behind, he stays after it and gets the ball and knocks it in.
He's got 15. He averages 12.5, so he's above average tonight. And look at who's there, Rico Hill, to clean up the Leroy Watkins miss.
Okay, good job again by Rico going after the ball on the boards. And that time Leroy got the ball in good position inside the block, but wasn't able to draw the foul or come over the bucket. But Rico's right there to clean it up.
Hill has tied his career high now with 26 points. The Redbirds show some zone defense. Loose ball on the floor. Condelbender was trying to call for a timeout, but a held ball. Southwest will still have it.
Yeah, good job by the officials there. You know, that timeout on the ball where you really don't have possession of it, I really don't favor that call. Here you see kind of a scramble after the ball, and Condelbender does a good job of coming up with it from Rico Hill, and Leroy comes in and was able to tie him up for the held ball possession.
Leroy Watkins is leaving the game now, and Dan Muller is coming in. And Rob Gibbons is also in, and Skip Schaefbauer is out. Ryan Bentonhausen has re-entered the game for Southwest Missouri State. If you think you've heard the name Bentonhausen before, you have. His grandfather and his uncle are the Tony Bentonhausen Sr. and Tony Bentonhausen Jr., those great Indianapolis 500 race car drivers, and that's Kevin Alt. He kept trying the three, he was unsuccessful, but finally nailed one.
I tell you, out of the zone defense, too, Illinois State not able to keep their eye on Kevin Alt the whole time. He was able to find an opening in the zone and drain the three.
Bentonhausen on the reach-in foul that time. He was very aggressive and almost came up with a steal, but instead gets the foul.
Yeah, that time the official all the way was signaling that the ball had been deflected, so there wasn't going to be a backcourt violation. But Jamar was able to get to it quicker and draw the foul against Bentonhausen.
We're getting close to the 9-minute mark now. 9 minutes left here in the second half. The Redbirds with a 3-point lead. Muller in rhythm, missed the 3-ball though. Kevin Alt tries to go and chase it in the corner, and Steve Hansel got it, and a reach-in foul on Kevin Alt. So the hustle by Hansel pays off.
Yeah, it was a good job by Steve tracking that shot down by Dan Muller. Dan really wasn't set on the play. Came off the screen, curling it inside the middle of the top of the key, and just really didn't have his shoulder square to the basket before he released that shot.
Redbirds are now in the bonus.
ISU now in the bonus, so we're going to see some free throws from here on out. Dan Muller that time with the right hand.
Good recognition that time by Dan. Just held his dribble until he saw an opening in the defense down the middle of the lane. Just took it right in there. Was able to lay up a nice little one-handed shot. Knock it down for the Birds.
The Redbird lead is 5 now, 69-64. And Alt again will try for 3 and missed it off the back of the iron. The long rebound goes to Bentonhausen. He takes it to the basket and scores.
A poor job that time by the Redbirds of sealing their man out defensively, and they were in a man-to-man situation, so everybody should have had somebody to block out.
Rico Hill goes right around Danny Moore. 4-shot, couldn't get it. Gibbons the rebound, though. Good offensive board for Rob Gibbons, and the crowd recognizes it. Now Hansel hangs and fires, missed the scoop shot, and it's ripped down by John Paul Nelson. Kevin Stallings asking for a foul, can't get it. Here's Ryan Bentonhausen, the pull-up jumper. No good, but he goes and taps it back to himself and finds Kevin Alt now, who kicks it inside to Danny Moore, who draws the foul.
Boy, it seemed like a touch foul that time by Steve Hansel as Moore went up for the shot. At the other end, Steve seemed to get the same kind of a touch when he went up for his shot. So at one end, you don't get the call, and at the other end, you do. So that's what's frustrating the Redbirds and the crowd at this point.
The Bears have been very aggressive here in the second half on the offensive glass, particularly the perimeter players. Guys like Ryan Bentonhausen and William Fauntleroy and Kevin Alt are going in and getting offensive rebounds.
Yeah, it's creating those second chance opportunities where Kevin Alt's taking advantage of them on the perimeter, Ben Condalbender's taking advantage of them underneath the basket, and Danny Moore's taking advantage of them around the basket as well.
Moore already has 9 free throws tonight. This will be number 10. He's 7 of 10 from the floor. He's got 13 points, and there's a timeout on the floor. It's a good one, folks. Just a one-point game. 69-60 at ISU with 7:55 to play. Winning streak over Southwest at home because the Bears just won't go away.
I tell you, we talked earlier about the balance in Illinois State's lineup. Already with 8 minutes to go in the game, Southwest Missouri State has 5 players in double figures.
Here's Dan Muller. Missed the shot, tipped up by Leroy Watkins. That's going to be off Nelson's hands. Oh boy, Leroy.
Danny Moore did a good job that time of flying at the shot by Dan Muller, making him adjust at the last moment. But that allowed Leroy Watkins a free lane to the basket and almost tipped it in.
There's Watkins, and he drew the foul on Nelson that time. Off the nice entry pass from Smiler.
Good motion that time on the out-of-bounds play. You see Illinois State score a lot out of their out-of-bounds plays underneath the basket. That time he's got Leroy Watkins wide open underneath the basket. John Paul Nelson had no choice but to come over and foul him to avoid him knocking down the basket inside.
Leroy Watkins at the line for the Redbirds.
Leroy's a 51% free thrower, 0 for 2 so far tonight from the free throw line.
Well, I tell you, a stretch the other night against Wichita State, the Birds got cold from the line, and he was the only one who hit any out of 10 in a row there for Millman.
ISU is a 73% free throw. I'm sorry, Southwest is a 73% shooting free throw team and 69% for ISU. So you know Southwest typically makes its free throws when it goes to the free throw line, and it might come down to that, but we're going to have a traveling violation on Bentonhausen. He slipped.
Yeah, again, an unforced turnover by Ryan Bentonhausen. He's done that 3 or 4 times tonight, but you know that's what happens when you get good pressure defense on the ball, and that time Jamar was hawking him out on the perimeter and caused the turnover.
3-point lead for ISU with the basketball. Looks like the Redbirds are trying to get in sync here on offense and having a hard time doing it. Credit Southwest's defense for much of that. Here's Watkins.
Great job by Leroy that time, not trying to force it the first time he had the ball inside. Just kicked it back out to Jamar and established position down on the block and was able to go up strong and knock down the left-handed jump hook.
The fans here trying to get the Redbird defense going. Lob down low and Moore. Missed the shot, Muller the rebound.
Mr. Defense right there helping out on the play.
Smiley all the way down, missed the shot. Rico Hill tried to grab it, but it went off his hands and out of bounds.
Yeah, a little out of control that time by Jamar. Tried to force the issue, and Moore was right there underneath the basket to force Jamar to take an off-balance shot, to adjust his shot on the way in. Southwest comes up with the ball.
Certainly, if there's one knock on Jamar Smiley, he is the engine that makes the Illinois State car run. He's #1 in the league in assists, #5 nationally, but however, occasionally he gets out of control, like in that play.
Well, Illinois State in a trapping man-to-man pressure here this time down the floor.
Josh Oates in the ball game. That's him, number 30. He just handed the ball off to Fauntleroy. 10 seconds on the shot clock.
A little mismatch here for Illinois State defensively.
Fauntleroy pushed the shot up, couldn't get it. Danny Moore, the rebound and put back.
Yeah, again, a mismatch defensively created that offensive rebound opportunity for Danny Moore. Illinois State was scrambling to guard their man defensively, and it put Leroy Watkins on Fauntleroy and allowed Danny Moore to get the rebound.
Here's Muller, drives to the baseline. Cut off, missed the shot. Watkins had it knocked out of his hands. Loose ball on the floor. Alternate possession. ISU gets it.
Yeah, Muller went in that time with a slide move from the baseline, trying to draw the foul. Didn't get the call, but Leroy did a good job of staying after it. As you can see, Dan driving the baseline, slides inside the lane, trying to get it up, tries to draw the foul, doesn't get it. Leroy just stays after the ball, keeps his hands alive. He's got such strong hands, and nobody's going to take the ball away from him. He's able to get the held ball, possession Illinois State.
This has been a flat-out war in the trenches with these post players. And Nelson just picked up another foul.
His fourth. Good motion offense again that time on the out-of-bounds play, but Illinois State get the ball in Rico Hill's hands on the block in a good position to score. And it's going to send him to the line here for a one-and-bonus opportunity.
The way these guys are playing, the post players, Danny Moore and John Paul Nelson and Rico Hill and Rob Gibbons and Leroy Watkins, they're not going to have anybody standing by the end of the night. They're just going in a tooth and nail.
Yeah, Illinois State doesn't play again until Saturday against Bradley. They're going to need some time off after battling these guys inside.
So there's a new career high for Rico Hill, 27 points. Last year's 26-point total against Northern Iowa had been his career best, but now this one is. And there's still 5 minutes and 40 seconds to play here. Back tap by Smiley.
There you get that offensive rebound out of the free throw situation again.
Gibbons responsible for that, and Skip Shafauer.
After 5 misses, Skip connects again. That's a huge three for the Redbirds.
Steve Alford wants timeout. He's going to call a 20.
Yeah, that got the crowd going again. You know, Skip got a good look that time offensively off the missed free throw opportunity. Rob kept it alive, and Skip came off with 2 screens that time. Was able to get a good look at the top of the key and just nailed it.
Well, the Redbird Arena faithful on its feet for this big three by Skip Shafauer.
Yeah, I tell you, there's nothing better to get the crowd back into the game than a long three by Skip, and to see him hitting that shot. The crowd understands they need that kind of contribution from him, and you know he was fired up after that shot because he wants to be able to help his team out, and the way he's capable of. And you know what a lift in that opportunity down the floor for the Redbirds.
The funny thing about Skip is it seems like the further away he shoots it, the more comfortable he is. He doesn't want this foot on the line stuff. He wants to be like 5 steps behind. The whistle before the basket.
I think it was a hand check from behind that time as Dan Muller was trying to guard Ben Condalbender on the way in. Dan's the best defender the Illinois State Redbirds have and the best defender in the Valley. And that time Condalbender, with his knack of getting to the basket, is able to get around him and draw the foul.
That's exactly what he has, a knack for getting to the basket. Leroy Watkins back in the game, replacing Rob Gibbons for Illinois State.
Birds in their point zone defense right here on the out-of-bounds play.
Here's Kaliko Bowie missing the shot, and that time Skip Shafauer was just hanging all over Danny Moore, and he got whistled for the foul.
Moore is a big boy out there, and that time Skip tried everything he could to get him off that block to get rebound position underneath, but Moore didn't want to have anything to do with it and held his position, was able to draw the foul, and Skip trying to get the board.
ISU has had his hands full with Danny Moore tonight, trying to move him all over the block, and they really haven't been too successful in that. And the rebounds are about dead even. ISU with 39 on the game and Southwest with 38.
This game's really going to come down to who can execute at the line, and both teams, as we talked about earlier, are good free throw shooting teams, and you know 8 out of 11 so far for Danny Moore in the game.
Make it 9 out of 12. He has 17 to lead the Bears, and as you said, Matt, 5 Bears players in double figures in scoring, led by Moore's 17 and Condalbender's 15. Dan Muller for 3, missed the shot, and Kaliko Bowie the rebound. Southwest now trying to cut into a 5-point Redbird advantage as we're under 5 minutes to play here in regulation.
Another set play down at the other end. Dan Muller coming off of 2 screens, just wasn't able to knock it down. That time he spurred up a little better.
Josh Holtz for 3. Missed it. Hill the rebound. A double-double now for Rico Hill is at his 10th board to go with his 27 points. Smiley crossover around Fauntleroy. Laid it in.
The killer crossover from Jamar Smiley that time. Fauntleroy was kind of lulled to sleep there for a moment. Jamar just went right by him.
What a big basket that is for ISU. 7-point lead now. There you see the time in the corner left in this one. Just over 4 minutes.
Again, the Redbirds in their point zone defense.
Condobender for 3. He drained it.
I tell you, every time they've gone into that zone, they've left a man open, and they haven't knocked down all the shots, but between Alt and Condobender, they're going to knock down more than they miss.
18-point effort tonight for Ben Condobender. And he's kept his team in it. Just a 4-point ISU advantage. Here's Rico Hill.
Big shot by Rico Hill, showing his range. 29 points now for Rico Hill. It's hard to believe he's only a sophomore.
Kaliko Bowie, pull-up jumper. Oh, it's like a shootout at the OK Corral. Back and forth, back and forth.
I tell you, Bowie's done a good job of exposing Rico Hill defensively out on the floor and taking advantage of that situation.
Here's Rico now. He draws a triple team. And
foul on Moore. That's his 4th.
As soon as that ball went into Rico Hill's hands, Danny Moore was there, Kaliko Bowie was there, William Fauntleroy was there.
A good entry pass by Rico from the top. Rico does a good job, or from Leroy on the top, Rico does a good job of composing himself inside, drawing the foul against Danny Moore, his 4th.
Back in the Southwest lineup. Rico Hill to the free throw line. 2 shots.
Rico's done some damage at the free throw line tonight, too. 7 out of 9.
There's the 30 points, first time in 4 years here at Redbird Arena.
Rico has now had a double-double in 8 games in his career. That means double points in scoring and rebounding. This is the 4th time he's done it this year. And he's got 12 consecutive performances where he has scored in double figures. He has 31, and the Redbirds have with 3:17 to go. Rico Hill has been the man tonight.
Yeah, the sophomore shall lead them. Rico Hill showing his range here, stepping out to about 18 and knocking down the shot for 2 of his 31 points.
The last ISU player to score 30 or more points in a game, Mike Vandegaard against Northern Iowa here at Redbird Arena on the 1st of March, 1993. Here's William Fauntleroy. He gets up high, missed the shot. Rico Hill, his 12th rebound of the night. He's doing it on both ends. Smiley, lob. Hill goes and gets and scores.
I tell you, that was a good job by Rico, anticipating where the ball was going to come off. It was a pass that time by Jamar. I wonder if they gave him assist on that one.
Here's Kaliko Bowie, who answers for 3.
Tough shot. Rico Hill was right in his face again.
The Bears are not going down easily. Under 2.5 to play now. Rico Hill now on Danny Moore.
Oh, my. I wonder when the last time somebody scored 40 points. We may see it.
He's got 35 on 13 of 20 shooting from the field. Fauntleroy for 3. Missed it. Hill the rebound.
Had to get himself up off the floor and still got the rebound.
Kevin Stallings.
I tell you, that's a great call by Coach Kevin Stallings. Rico Hill is coming down the floor, asking to be taken out of the game. Kevin Stallings says, you're not coming out. You got 35 points. You're staying in there. He calls a quick 20-second timeout. Great call by Coach Kevin Stallings.
So the Redbirds have a 7-point lead and the basketball. There's no doubt who's the player of the game tonight. Rico Hill with 35 points and 11 or 12 rebounds now, and he's doing a lot of it from down low.
Yeah, I tell you, another tough shot going over the 6'10 Danny Moore. He was almost behind the basket on this one. Able somehow to get it up out from behind the board and drop it in. He's just got such a great touch around the basket and a feel for the game. It's great to see such a special night tonight out of Rico Hill. And as it appears, Rico Hill won the battle because he did come out of the game.
So Watkins, Muller, Smiley, Schaefauer, and Hansel, the 5 in the floor for Illinois State. Fauntleroy, Alt, Condobender, Moore, and Kaliko Bowie, the 5 on the floor for the Bears, as we're under 2 minutes to play here in regulation. Illinois State with the basketball in a 7-point lead. Hansel to Watkins, who just backed Danny Moore all the way down and laid it in.
Yeah, again, Moore had 4 fouls, too, with a minute and a half to go. He didn't want to go out of the game, so Leroy could pretty much make his way inside and was able to score an easy bucket.
Just showing his strength there. Here's Bowie now, pull-up jumper. Can't get it, and the rebound to Hansel. And the Redbirds are smelling it now. Jamar Smiley fouled that time by Bowie.
We go to the line for 2, and this is really crunch time. That's who you want on the line is Jamar Smiley. That time Jamar looked like he may have hurt his wrist as he was coming down again, and he's really in a lot of pain. Let's see if he can stay in the game here and shoot these free throws or not.
Correction on the foul, it was on Fauntleroy, not Bowie. And Smiley's walking around grimacing, hanging onto that wrist, which is tightly wrapped, his right wrist.
I wonder if he's going to have to come out of the game now that John Munn came out on the floor. He may have to.
John Munn is the ISU trainer there that's talking with his arm around Smiley. He will tell you that without question, Jamar Smiley's the toughest player on the Redbird roster.
Well, look who comes in the game, man, with 35 points and is 9 out of 11 from the line, but he'll replace Jamar Smiley and go to the free throw line and see if Rico Hill is able to add to his total.
So Jamar's out, and Rico Hill is at the free throw line to add to his total if he can get it.
Got a little cold sitting there on the bench.
Missed them both, but the back tap goes way out to Steve Hansel. Leroy Watkins, give him credit for that one. Now here's Hill down low. Pull-up jumper. No basket.
Rico wanted to do the conventional way. He didn't want to go to the line, and he didn't want to go to the line and earn somebody else's points. He wanted to get them himself. He felt like, that time if he had gotten those points, it really should have been Jamar's. So he's going to earn them himself.
Steve Alford is saying, how in the world do you stop this guy? We haven't been able to do it all night. Now, if you would have told me before the game, Matt, that one team would have 5 players in double figures and another team would have a 30-plus point performer, but that'd be it, I'd say, I guess ISU has 5 players in double figures and Danny Moore lights up ISU for 30-plus.
Exactly.
But now, with some of these free throws down the stretch, ISU has a couple of more players in double figures. 37 now for Hill. Watkins with 10. Schaefer with 10. Smiley with 11.
And Steve Hansel with 9 all in the first half.
Balanced scoring for the Bears, but it doesn't appear like it's going to be enough. Condobender draws the foul on Watkins, and he's going to get up and pace to the corner.
Boy, Leroy upset. He thought defensively he made a good play that time and got over and was able to draw the charge. Condobender pretty much made up his mind the whole time that he was going straight to the basket. Leroy just over a little too late, and the official's right there, and you can see he makes the blocking call. And Leroy says, "Oh, come on, I finally made a good defensive play and moved my feet."
We've had that whistle a lot tonight, either the charge or the block right underneath that same basket all night.
And I'll tell you, a lot of officials you talk to will tell you the same thing. That's one of the hardest calls to make is the difference between the block and the charge. And, I think for the most part, these guys have done a good job in that area.
Nice hand for Leroy Watkins as he goes to the bench, and a nice hand for the missed free throw by Condobender, who's trying to add to his 18-point output tonight, which leads the Bears offense. 1 out of 2, he's got 19 points. He's only been to the free throw line 5 times. He's made 4 of the 5. 1 minute, 2 seconds left here in regulation. The Redbirds with a 10, and you'll see the game live here on CBS 31.
That's going to be an exciting matchup. I can't wait for that one.
1 minute and 2 seconds left here in regulation now. ISU trying to inbound the ball under the basket there, and Rico Hill gets it back from Hansel. ISU does a nice job of breaking that pressure, but the ball is thrown away. Hansel was looking for Gibbons, who could have had an easy basket, but Kevin Stallings just doesn't want Steve Hansel to throw that ball to Rob Gibbons at that point.
I couldn't see from my angle. The official was my way, but I thought that the Southwest Missouri State player hit it. I wasn't sure why Rob was running after the ball, but again, from my angle, I couldn't tell if he had deflected that pass or not.
Now Leroy Watkins is back in the game now, and Rob Gibbons goes and takes a seat. 52 seconds now left.
A little bit of a mismatch there with Leroy guarding Kaliko Bowie out on the perimeter.
Fauntleroy scooped it in and calls timeout right away.
I tell you, he's got a good knack for going into the lane area there and getting up and getting the ball in the basket.
He's got some jumps. That kid can get up in the air, William Fauntleroy. As we said, he's just a freshman, and Steve Alford had...
Primarily Steve Hansel, and both of them are excellent free throw shooters.
Evidently, Jamar re-aggravating that wrist injury is not in the ballgame again. And immediately Skip Schaefauer is fouled by Fauntleroy.
John Paul Nelson just writhing in pain down there and holding his knee. I'm not sure what happened to him on that play. And I think as he was trying to stay with Rico, now he's grabbing his ankle. As he was trying to stay with Rico running the baseline, he appeared to have twisted it or turned it.
Let's get another look and see if we can.
Right from the start,
stepped on his own player.
Jumped up and kind of caught the back of Fauntleroy's heel and just rolled his ankle. I've had that happen to me several times, and that's not much fun.
No, that's painful. He's only been with the team for 11 games. This is his 12th. He transferred at the semester break from Northwest Arkansas Community College. Prior to that, he was playing at Oklahoma State, where he played behind Bryant Reeves, who was an All-American and now playing in the NBA.
The crowd's getting a little bit of a laugh out of that situation with Nelson being assisted over the bench. They had a trainer come out and help him out that was probably all of 5 feet, so he had a 7-footer kind of using the 5-foot trainer as a crutch.
Skip is a 75% free thrower on the season, and he's a perfect 5 out of 5 from his free throw line efforts tonight. He'll try to make it a perfect 6 out of 6, and he does.
Skip's second in scoring for the Redbirds tonight with a modest 12 compared to Rico's 37.
It's a quiet 12. Here's Ryan Bentonhausen, shot missed, Hill the rebound. And now Hansel. And he's fouled again by Fauntleroy.
That time he learned from his mistake, and as soon as Steve looked up, Coach Kevin Stallings looked right at him and he said, "That's better." That time he didn't try to throw the pass down the floor. He just held on to it, was able to draw the foul and go to the free throw line.
So Steve Alford loses the services of William Fauntleroy, who was just fouled out.
That was funny right there. Leroy came up to Steve at the free throw line and said, "Hey, I was open for a dunk. Give me the ball." Coach Stallings looked right at him and says, he did the right thing.
JoJo Dabbs will come in the ball game now to replace the disqualified Fauntleroy. Your other finals in the Valley tonight, it was Bradley beating Wichita State 74-57. Evansville beats Northern Iowa 57-54. And Creighton wins at Carbondale against Southern Illinois 72-65.
I tell you, this is a tough road trip for any team to have to come in and play Bradley and Illinois State back-to-back. And Wichita and Southwest are both going to come out of this Central Illinois road trip with 2 losses. So that really kind of knocks them down a notch in the standings.
2 makes for Steve Hansel. And there's a long 3 by Bentonhausen missed. Condell Bender, he loses control of the ball, but he drew the foul before that on Schaefauer.
Yeah, again, Skip trying to draw the offensive foul, and Southwest right now just trying to get the ball in the basket. Condell Bender, as he's accustomed to getting it in there somehow, he was able to draw the foul, and he'll go to the line for 2 with 20 seconds to go.
So Skip Schaefauer fouls out, and Rob Gibbons is going to come in the ball game.
It's a good job by the Redbirds here to fight off Southwest Missouri State in their attempt to get back in this game. And you know, they've really fought off a good effort here by Southwest, who were kind of backed into a corner after their defeat at Bradley, and really kind of seeing their contention in the league race slip away for the time being. But this is a long season yet so far in the conference, and you know, this team will still have to be reckoned with towards the end in the Valley tournament in March.
Hey, Joe Hines getting in the ball game now. Schaefauer goes to the bench, as does Leroy Watkins. And Rob Gibbons is in the game, and we're seeing Joe Hines for the first time tonight. Freshman forward out of Northbrook.
Joe's got a nice looking shot, and people are going to see good things from him in the future. Good looking freshman out of the Chicago area, and you'll see his sweet looking jumper for many years to come.
So a free throw make there for Condell Bender now with 20 points. It's well short of his career high. He once had a 36-point night last year. ISU content on just dribbling the ball out. Your final from Redbird Arena is Illinois State 95 and Southwest Missouri State 84. The Redbirds now go to 7-2 in the conference and stay in sole possession in first place. We're back. The Redbirds, an 11-point victor tonight, 95-84 at home over Southwest Missouri State, paced by Rico Hill's outstanding effort. A career-high 37 points and 13 rebounds. Saturday, it's ISU and Bradley here on CBS 31 at 7. We'll see you then. This is Kurt Peckler for Matt Taphorn. Have a good night.